I love this scene. The master-apprentice dynamic, the music, the setting, but most of all the teachings within it. See, this, to me, is one of the best representations of teaching martial arts I've seen in a Western movie. Now let me tell you why. Alright, so I'm not going to break down every scene of the whole movie because A, it's been done way better by Patrick H. Willems in his explanation of the Mask of Zorro, and B, that would take a whole lot of time and editing that my current schedule just does not allow. But since it's one of my mother's and my favorite movies of all time, I thought, let me break down one of my favorite scenes in the movie, in the only way I know how, and that is to connect it to martial arts. Obviously. And so we arrive to this montage. Now, the montage itself shows the progress of a disciple from a novice to an expert. The master in this respect is Don Diego de la Vega, played by Anthony Hopkins, who's an aged and experienced Zorro on a quest for his final revenge. The disciple here is Alejandro Murrieta, played by Antonio Banderas, a man out to avenge his murdered brother, and along the way meets the Don. As their paths align, Don Diego takes Alejandro under his wing, effectively becoming his master and preparing him to take on the mantle of the Fox, Zorro. Don Diego establishes the start of the training with these words.
This is called a training circle, the master's wheel. This circle will be your world, your whole life. Until I tell you otherwise, there is nothing outside of it.
Captain Love is...
There is nothing outside of it. Captain Love does not exist until I say he exists.
A great opening that sets the tone for what the rest of the training will be. But when we take a step closer and really look at the meaning of the words, we realize that the master's wheel refers to the Spanish style of fencing known as, and forgive me if I say it wrong, la verdadera destreza, a style of fencing that is primarily focused on geometry and incorporates philosophy and Renaissance humanist ideals into itself. In other words, a martial art in the broadest sense of the term. Might I add, the choice of using this style of fencing is perfectly in keeping in the general timeline of Zorro, if we ascribe to the theory that the Mask of Zorro is a sequel to the 1940s classic Mark of Zorro, starring Tyrone Power. As in this movie, it is shown that Diego de la Vega spent his teenage years in Spain going through military schooling, in a time where destreza was the most popular form of fencing. Now, before I delve into each specific part of the montage, I first have to let you in on something. See, I have a personal classification of martial arts, and that is the difference between Eastern and Western martial arts. In movies, that is. Although you can apply it to real life if you wish. This difference can be seen in the way that Eastern martial arts will talk of transfer of energy and things like pulling energy from the ground, channeling it through your body, and expending it out through your fist, allowing you to throw a harder punch. While Western martial arts will say these same things, but through scientific terminology, like pivoting, which allows you to push from the floor and allows kinetic energy to pass through your body, and through proper rotation allows you to deliver a harder punch. The same result, but different ways of explaining it. And this difference is perfectly exemplified in this movie, and the destreza is a perfect example of this difference applied. And so throughout the movie, you can see the clear parallels that can be made between this movie and your kung fu films, where the master and disciple relationship is just as strong. This very thing can be seen when Don Diego teaches Alejandro what is essentially forms. And the easy parallel to make is the fact that there are countless martial arts that teach forms, especially when it comes to weapon systems. It is an efficient method to improve reactions to certain attacks and build a sort of muscle memory with the way you move with your chosen weapon. Examples can be seen in Kali, Tartib, and Kendo. And here we see it when Don Diego uses this method to teach for fencing. What I personally like most about this is the emphasis on starting with the basics slowly. After all, slow is smooth and smooth is quick.
Slow. Again. Slow. First triangle. Slow. Like good. Good. That is good.
You see that Alejandro's skill is improving by the fact that he's able to perform these movements faster after this. Perhaps just my headcanon, but something that adds nonetheless. Now, if you look at those old school kung fu films, you will see that throughout the training, the master instills his ideologies and philosophy through the method of riddles and testing their students' commitment by giving them challenges in hopes of having them come to the same conclusions the master did. The same thing happens in this montage between Don Diego and Alejandro, except for in a distinctly Western fashion. Those first words he says, the explanation he gives of the master's wheel, even the way he puts his philosophy and adds the metaphor of the circles and one's enemy. It's a perfect parallel, and I find this fascinating.
I like that part.
Another great part of the montage is that although it is short, the progress seen is clear. In most movies, it will be shown by how much more in shape the student gets or by them being awarded a certain heirloom or the like. But in this movie, it is signified by the hair, believe it or not. At the start, Alejandro is unkempt, has an overgrown beard and an uncared for hairdo. But when Diego cuts his hair, we can see a clear sign of acknowledgement of growth in Alejandro. And from that point onward, we can see Alejandro be more and more competent, ending with him beating Don Diego in a spar.
Again?
All this eventually leads into Act 2 of the movie, where we start seeing the successor slowly take the reins and begin bringing back the concept of Zorro into the public consciousness. The scene might not be the objective best scene in the movie, but it is my favorite for these reasons. I mean, the movie itself is a kung fu movie combined with a superhero origin story, and the setting itself is beautiful. The matte paintings, the story, the action, the characters, they're all things that I enjoy. But this scene specifically, this montage, gives me the feeling that I'm enjoying a martial arts movie. And that's why I love this scene so much. But that's it for this video. For more stuff like this, like and subscribe, hit that bell button. It helps a lot, really, trust me. Let me know what you think. Should I make more of this kind of stuff? You know, it's something a little different. I had pretty good fun making this, so, you know, let me know. But aside from that, stay healthy, stay safe, peace.